Hey everybody, welcome to this week's ChannelTech VideoCast. I am your hostess, Charlene O'Hanlon, Senior Editor at the War Guy, and I'm here, as always, with my co-hostess, Diane Krakora, CEO of PartnerPath. Hi Diane, how are you?
Good morning, Charlene. I think you're the hostess with the mostest.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I always like to be called the hostess with the mostest. So we've had a really interesting week on Wall Street, huh?
Interesting is an interesting word for it.
Yeah. I tend not to get really involved mentally in the stock market and Wall Street because really an average person would, such as myself, would just go crazy if you really started to think about the implications. But and of course everybody says don't look short term, look long term. But it's kind of interesting when you think about it from a global perspective. The fingers are all pointing at China as kind of the force behind the latest stock market correction, and it's you and I were having a conversation about this is a global economy, and so I'm wondering what you're thinking as far as really how this kind of impacts the channel, and really is this something solution providers as a whole really need to be worried about?
Yeah, I think we are a global economy, right? And as evidenced by not only just Monday's 1,000-point swing, which made my heart stop, by the way. I know you don't look short term, but I am maybe too heavily leveraged in the stock market right now. So I saw my entire retirement like wash away in one day. I went, oh, that's not so much fun. So we don't need to look short term, but we are a global economy, and I think we as Americans can get to be a little bit self-centered in that, and need to understand more about what's going on in the world and how that might affect our businesses, right? Even way back when Greece was having bailout issues, and then this issue with China and employment, and how that does affect us, and rather than kind of reacting to the business, really being able to participate in a global world. Not only vendors, but I think the solution providers also get to play in this global world.
So, if we can look at it from the broad perspective like that, but when we kind of funnel it down a little bit, it's I guess it would be helpful, hopefully for some of our audience, to really kind of drill down and see exactly what we mean by working on a global perspective and how something like this really impacts them. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about the channel partners working with vendors, especially those who are public companies, obviously something like this could have an impact on their bottom line. And I read this report this morning that just happened to be on the Bar Guy about Tim Cook, Apple CEO Tim Cook, actually made money from the China stock market crash, and so it's kind of crazy how this does impact the companies that solution providers are working with, both short term and long term. But also, if for solution providers who are looking to expand their business into international markets, they really have to be tuned in to what's happening with the economy there, and really plan accordingly. When we were talking last week with Donna Kiernan at Tenago Partnering, he really has his finger on the pulse of the European market, and so he can tell you which country is going to be the easiest and the most difficult to get into. But when it comes to partnering, having somebody that does have that depth of knowledge, I imagine it has got to be critical for a successful expansion into these markets internationally.
Yeah, and I think for the solution providers particularly, as they're having their quarterly, which are not quarterly, we do know, business reviews with their vendors, I think a lot of those conversations are focused either even in their kind of regional markets. A lot of the solution providers may cover 4 or 5 states in the US, and they're talking about really what's going on with them regionally. And I would encourage them to also expand that and ask their vendor partners as a solution provider what is going on for their business globally, right? How much of their business, what percentages? These should be easy numbers, even if they're working with companies that are not public, how much of their business is in EMEA, how much of it's APAC, what is their Latin America growth expectations. I just think it makes us better global citizens to kind of have those conversations, particularly as a solution provider. You want to know kind of where your vendors that you're investing in and hoping to have, good 3 to 5 year run, how diversified are they across the world? There'd be opportunities for you to work with those vendors across some of these regions. Particularly, I think, as a solution provider, you're supporting a customer, and those customers are bound to have remote offices or at least remote people in other regions.
Well, that makes sense. And one thing, as you're talking about this, I kind of started thinking about a lot of the partner conferences that I've gone to. And especially with the larger vendors, I've noticed that they tend to break out their partner conferences by regions or countries. Like they'll have a North American partner conference, and they'll have an APAC partner conference. And I guess if they're kind of banging the drum about partnering and maybe going global, I think kind of breaking out their channel partner conferences doesn't seem to help. I mean, call me crazy, but why would you want to isolate your different channel partners if you want them to all work together? And I understand there are certain things that that happen in certain countries, but geez, there's got to be a way to make it happen.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do at the big vendor conferences, particularly, I hate to throw Cisco, but at the Cisco Partner Summit, is to go to the other regions' parties. I know I said the word parties, not necessarily are there events.
Get-togethers, meet and greet.
Yes, those after-hour parties. Let me tell you, go to the Latin America parties. They are so much fun, and they go so late. But I think there's a way to, instead of just kind of hanging with the North America teams and going to those events and those social aspects where you really get to mix and mingle, go to the ones. Let you in. There's, certainly your pass will get you into the EMEA events or the Latin America events, etc. And then you really get to kind of experience different partners. You get to talk about their business. I really think that is one way for the solution providers to really kind of get a better flavor of what's happening in the different regions without kind of missing the program stuff that they may talk about in your kind of region-specific breakout sessions.
That's a great idea. And you can also kind of sample what drinks are popular at each of these regions' meet and greets, parties.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Get them to go to the bar and bring you back a drink, because then you'll see that
bartenders
learn what a Caprina is. Yeah.
There you go.
And also, I think there's a couple of things that the partners should be aware of as we start really talking about a global world. One is the cultural things that we talked about last week with Donna as well, and what countries and what are those cultural expectations, even in communication and responsiveness. Luckily, everybody really speaks, or at least tries to speak English, so we've got a benefit there that we don't have to try to learn all these different languages. But so understand the cultural nuisances, and also to really understand or try to start looking at where you might get extra bench. So if you're in a North American solution provider, even if you're in, like, call it the Pacific Northwest, you're likely to have an office from one of your customers that is going to be somewhere else, right? Maybe it's in Japan, maybe it's in Latin America. So you might need to start working on relationships with other solution providers in those areas that they use for bench if they need to kind of go in and make a call. Makes sense.
We've been kind of interchanging the words solution providers and channel partners, and this kind of goes back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago about really what we're going to call the channel. And you would not believe how many comments we've been getting about that particular topic. And I decided to leave the poll on the VAR Guy open just to see if we could get even more people taking part, and we have. And I have to tell you, Diane, that now it looks like 47% of the folks who have answered the poll want to be called channel partners. It used to, you know, before it was solution providers were kind of winning the race, and now the pendulum has swung, per se, to channel partners. And you know, I'm a little, I don't want to say confused, but
flabbergasted.
Yeah, because, you know, what we're talking about, especially with the new breed of solution providers who, you know, kind of make an effort not to align themselves with any particular vendor. So, you know, I just wonder exactly, you know, why would they want to be called a channel partner, which implies that they are aligning themselves with particular vendors. I don't know.
I don't know. It's interesting. I think we need to add another question as to why.
Why?
Well, because you would think that, you know, how they represent themselves on their website would be what they want to be called, right? And I don't see a lot of these guys putting "I'm a channel partner" on their website, because they're creating positioning and messaging for customers or prospects. And prospects don't say, "Hey, I'm looking for a channel partner," right? They're saying, "I'm looking for somebody who's going to solve a need or provide a solution to a big solution provider ever came."
Yeah.
So I don't. Maybe they want to be called channel partners from the vendor side, but not in the real world. I don't know. It's very flabbergasting to me.
And we all know how different the real world is from the channel. So.
Right. Absolutely.
I just got myself in big trouble with that one. Anyway, so a reminder to folks, if you have not taken part in the VAR Guy poll on the channel nomenclature, what do you want to be called? Please, there's still time. I'm going to leave this poll open because I think it's got legs and something definitely we can talk about every once in a while. But, you know, let me know why also. Why do you choose to be called a solution provider over a channel partner, over a cloud services provider, over a VAR? You know, let me know. Would love to hear what you've got to say. I also would love to hear your thoughts, comments, whatever, about today's topic, as well as topics that you would like us to talk about. So please use that comments box below us. You can also shoot a message over to Diane at www.partner-path.com, and I'm sure she would love to hear what you've got going on as well. And next week, perhaps we'll discuss a little bit about the Talkin' Cloud 100 list that was just unveiled yesterday.
Absolutely. Looking forward to having that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I know there were some shakeups over last year's list, so we can definitely have a nice conversation about that. But until then, Diane, am I missing anything? Any parting words?
No, I just, you know, I want to kind of, not that I have financial advice to anybody out there, that I'd be the worst person to take financial advice from, but in the last 3 days, I've talked to probably 40 different vendors, all here in the Valley, so it might be a little bit different because we're out here in Silicon Valley. They all say business is strong. So, you know, I know we're on this we have a global world and it's a global economy, but everybody I've talked to, from small guys to very large guys that happen to start with the word C, that happen to be in San Jose, are all saying that business is strong.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear, at least short term. So I guess we'll just have to keep our eye on the markets and everything else, and keep our fingers crossed. And otherwise, we're going to have lots more to talk about this topic, I'm sure. So, but for now, I would like to thank Diane for joining me on this week's video cast, as always. Thank you, Diane. And I will...
Thank you, Charlene.
Yeah, bye. All right, guys. We will see you next week. And for now, I'm Charlene O'Hanlon signing off. Thanks.